The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Appreciate everyone joining us. We're going to give people a couple minutes here to get logged in, but excited to walk you through the BIM 360 integration with Smartvid. So thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you in a couple minutes.
All right, so you're not sharing the slide yet.
Yeah, Josh, I think you'll need to make me presenter.
Yeah, somebody needs to be a presenter. I can't see any slide yet.
Excellent.
There you go.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening again. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Today, we've got a very exciting presentation with Smartvid.io, and then also Clayco's joining us, fantastic general contractor out of the Midwest. Gonna take everybody through just 3 poll questions here to really give everybody a sense of what the audience looks like, what the demographics look like, who's using which applications. And this is Josh Cheney speaking, by the way. My picture's there on the screen. I'm based in Autodesk's Portland, Oregon office. I've been in construction technology for 13 years. I come from industry, mostly in a pre-con estimating and bid management capacity. But also have exposure to several project management solutions and accounting ERPs. So I'll go ahead and open up our first poll question here. And really just to give us a sense of what tools people are using and really help us drive kind of what the audience looks like for today's presentation. So I'll give everybody a couple minutes here to respond. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close our first poll here. And it looks like we've got a pretty good audience, an inquisitive audience looking to learn a little bit more about Smartvid and BIM 360. And then, of course, also hear from Clayco Construction. All right, so we'll open up our second poll question here. And I'll go ahead and launch that one. And so really what we're driving at here is just to understand of the audience, have you heard of artificial intelligence or computer learning for safety, quality, and productivity management on your projects? So give everybody a couple minutes there. And I'll go ahead and close that poll out also. And we'll share the responses. So it looks like a fairly split audience. So, you know, about half of you are at least aware of artificial intelligence and computer learning. We'll go ahead and open up our third poll here. And this one is going to be a little bit more based on the standardization of processes. So does your organization, does your QA/QC safety team use photos and a standardized process for documenting your projects? So I'll give everybody a couple minutes to respond there. Option C, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a fair number of respondents picking option C there. So I'll go ahead and close that and share out the responses. So it looks like, you know, maybe people are using Excel, maybe people are using a drive that's shared company-wide, but it looks like there's a process, but maybe they need more consistency. Maybe you guys need more consistency. It's interesting to see that more people answered that it's a mess versus a standardized process with a single system. So with that, I'll kind of hand things over here to Josh Canner from Smartvid.io, and then also Thomas Lobb from Clayco. So Josh, take it away.
All right, thanks, Josh. It's great to participate in the webinar. Thanks for the opportunity. So I'm Josh Canner, based up here in Boston, Mass. Been in AEC-related technologies for over 13 years now. I was previously the co-founder of a company called Vela Systems. We brought tablet PCs, if folks on the webinar remember those things, and then iPads for documents, document management in the field, quality, safety, commissioning, and more to the construction industry. And that's now Autodesk BIM 360 Field. I've done a ton of webinars across my career, so I think it's always interesting to learn a little bit more about the different participants. Josh, Jenny, you were able to get out of this requirement, but usually what I'll do is I'll have some kind of fun fact about the different speakers. So I'll start off. My fun fact is that back in the Vela Systems days, I got to be in Arlington Stadium or Dallas Cowboy Stadium during construction and actually see that giant TV monitor, the central monitor there, display that as it actually came in. It was really amazing. So I'm going to introduce Tomislav as well. So Tomislav will be speaking from Clayco. Tomislav's been in the industry for over 20 years. Lots of experience across different segments of the industry, healthcare, commercial, industrial projects. Done ton of research around building performance, technologies, UAVs, and now, as you'll hear, he's also taken a deep interest in artificial intelligence. He leads Clayco's technology team and is deeply involved at both the executive level as well as working operationally on a bunch of different projects. So he's got a view of where things are going, but also really grounded in the realities of what's going on. And I tried to get a fun fact out of Tomislav, but there was nothing fun about Tomislav, according to him. So, Tomislav, you wouldn't. Yep. I think you're definitely the point is definitely coming across here that you are all business. So Tomislav and I are going to go back and forth. We just did the introductions. I'm going to talk for a little bit more here about what is Smartvid.io, just to give folks a little background on the technology. The poll that Josh did earlier showed that there's some folks who've heard of us, but plenty who haven't. So after that, you'll understand what we do, how we're using AI to improve safety and productivity and quality. And then I'll turn it over to Tomislav. He's going to give folks a view of Clayco and how they look at the really rapidly evolving technology space. So it's really an interesting set of perspectives. Tomislav actually just gave some of this talk at Future Tech, ENR's Future Tech out in San Francisco. So there's some really good perspectives there that he'll share. And then that'll tie right into how Clayco picked Smartvid.io. So Tomislav will talk a bit about that. And then we're going to go back and forth, and this is really the meat of the webinar, with real examples. So we're going to show you examples kind of like you see on the right. These are photos and data from Clayco's real projects that have gone through the Smartvid.io analytics and been used to create data about safety in this case. There's also some productivity examples as well, but safety in particular. And so you'll see real data from real customer projects, from real Clayco projects, and we'll show how it ties back into not just pictures that have labels like you see on the right, but into new kinds of statistics that you can generate to help drive a positive safety culture and to help ultimately reduce your incident rate on your jobs. Lastly, we'll say how you can get set up in less than 90 seconds to try it yourself. So you can get going on your BIM 360 photo data. It's super easy to set up. So that's it. That's what we're going to go through today. Let's keep rolling here. As I mentioned, I'm going to be driving just a short intro now on Smartvid.io, and then I'll turn it over to Tomislav. So what is Smartvid.io? We're a software company. We're based up in Boston, Mass here. Our mission overall is to improve safety, productivity, and quality in construction by making AI as easy to use as possible. So what that means is easy to get the data, easy to use the information, and then easy to be able to actually improve your operations by tying it to specific workflows at the project level and at the enterprise level. So it's AI. This gets a lot of, there's a lot of press about it. There's a lot of news about it. We're taking it and making it real for these areas and making it super easy to use. So you don't have to be a PhD in artificial intelligence or machine learning to use our stuff. You just have to be a BIM 360 user, and that's it. So one of the things that people don't really think about a lot, but is really important, is that there's a ton of information coming from the job site every day. So the amount of photo data and video data being collected every day on all your projects, whether it's through BIM 360 Field or through site cameras, or just being captured on iPads and phones, or like you can see in this picture, this is a kind of a wacky iPad GoPro combo that we've seen used out there. There's a ton of photo data. The question is, how do you manage it? And this was another question that Josh asked in the poll. What we can see out there is that just managing photos and videos is a huge challenge. It's all over the place. There are plenty of systems to capture the data, but still it winds up going all over the place. So this is one of the core things that we actually do with our platform. One of our customers once said, yeah, Smartvid.io, that's like Google Photos meets YouTube for construction. And that kind of stuck with me. YouTube, it's like Google Photos meets YouTube for construction. So what we're doing is we're tying in to all the places you have those photos today. So we tie into these sources of photos, whether it's BIM 360 or other sources, as I'll show you in a second. Then we do analysis. So we use advanced speech and image recognition to analyze both the photos and the videos, make them searchable, and then pull data from them that you can use to drive behavior. If you think about it, all those photos, they're just sitting there. You're already taking them. These aren't new. You're already taking all these pictures. How do you mine them for insights about what's going on your jobs? That's core to what we do. And then once we analyze them, what do you do with them? So we have a whole workflow, set of workflows where you can share them with the jobs. You can run reports so that you can see trends in the data, for example, or the observations of people, of workers and PPE. Are they trending in the right or wrong direction? Other risk factors as well. So make it super easy to use to get the data, analyze it, and then use it in our platform. So what are the kinds of systems that we pull from? One of the things we're doing is we're aggregating, we're basically consolidating all the photo and video data across multiple systems. So we have these pre-built integrations with Autodesk BIM 360, with some standard industry file systems like Ignite, with site camera systems like OxBlue. We just rolled out a box integration. So wherever you got your pictures or videos, we can go get them. And in less than 90 seconds, they start flowing into our system, and they're organized and aggregated by project. So if you ever wanted to try and find your pictures for a job and you didn't know where they were, we can help solve that problem right off the bat. And then once you got the pictures in there, and videos, you can then start using them for a whole bunch of different use cases, or think of them as, just ways you can create value from them on your projects. Today, we're really talking a lot about safety. We have done a lot of work in progress tracking as well. In the safety area, as you'll see, when we get into the Clayco data, you'll see real data from Clayco. It's anonymized, but you'll see some real examples of the analytics that we do, where we're doing speech and vision analytics to find out what's in those photos. So it's just like, on your Apple phone or on your Google Android phone, you can search for photos. And I don't know if folks know this, but if you go on your phone and in the search bar in your photos, if you type in something like car or tree or even cat or dog, it actually searches all your photos. After we aggregate all of your pictures, we do the same kind of thing, and we use machine learning to recognize what's in those pictures. So instead of looking for, cats or trees, we're looking for things like workers missing high-vis gear, as you can see in this example on the left. And then on the right, whereas you may talk to your phone and you try and get Apple's Siri to understand what you're saying because you want to say, hey, Siri, what's the weather today or something, or you want to get movie tickets. Instead of doing those kinds of things, what we do is we have speech recognition that's designed for construction terms. Like on the right here, you can see this was actually pre-pour documentation done. And in this case, the field superintendent was documenting the level, and then also talking about the specific scopes of work, structural slab, pours, complete. Those are all words that we detected in a speech engine that, just like the image recognition, both speech and image are really designed from the ground up for construction. And that's what makes us different. We're collecting and aggregating all your photos and videos, but then on top of it, we have an artificial intelligence engine, which we've nicknamed Vinny. So IBM has Watson. We've nicknamed ours Vinny after one of the field superintendents from Jersey who was one of the early alpha testers. So Vinny can hear and see what's going on in the pictures. And then the really important stuff happens after that. Because once you can see and hear what's in all that data, you can then start taking action on it. So, but the key part is getting the data to start. So in this last slide, before I turn it over to Tomislav, I show how you can integrate with BIM 360 really easily. It's great to see a lot of BIM 360 users on the call, on this webinar rather. So if you have BIM 360, we have built already, it exists, a integration with Autodesk Forge. It's really easy to do. You can sign up for a trial on smartvid.io, and then you go in and you log into BIM 360 through our application. So this is actually the gray background there is the Smartvid.io application. And then all you need is a BIM 360 login to BIM 360 field or docs. Once you log in, it creates, think of it as a connection or a handshake between the two systems. And then your projects, your photos, your locations, descriptions, everything starts flowing back into Smartvid.io and is available for analysis. So this is why we say less than 90 seconds. It actually is really less than 90 seconds. You just have to log in. So I guess it depends on how fast you can type as a user. But if you can type in your user credentials pretty quick, actually just reasonable speed, you can connect up BIM 360 to SmartVid and start the information flowing and take advantage of our industry built, think of it as artificial intelligence for safety and other areas. So it's super easy to get started. So that's a bit of background on me, my co-speaker Tomislav, Smartvid.io. I'm now going to turn it over to Tomislav to talk about Clayco, their view of the vastly expanding set of technologies that are out there. We're in, both Tomislav, you and I have been in this industry for a while. And I think as I transition to you, as we've talked, it seems like there's more tech out there now than there ever has been before.
Right. So can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you great.
Oh, awesome. Oh, sorry. So as to kind of attest to what Josh was just mentioning, well, he clearly stated that I'm no fun whatsoever. So I was all business. And while he was talking about Smartvid.io, I was actually setting up 2 integration points on one of our corporate jobs in St. Louis. So I connected to BIM 360 as well as 3 Augsburg cameras. And yes, I think you're right. It takes less than 90 seconds, and it took less than 90 seconds for both points of integration. So that part is super easy.
That's good to hear.
I'm really thank you, Josh and Josh, for having me on the webinar.
Yeah.
I want to give you a little bit of a background on Clayco. Clayco is primarily a real estate developer and design builder, but under Clayco umbrella, there are several entities that contribute to our success story. We are roughly, these days, we count almost 2,000 people. We have numerous locations, headquartered in Chicago, but a couple of things we are very proud of is obviously our growth and our vertical integration strategy, but also our safety record. And considering how keen are we on safety, Smartvid was just a natural choice, not only in terms of improving our safety record, but also in terms of finding quote unquote glue that will tie all these information points together and start extracting images that are absolutely crucial for us to keep track of our jobs and understand what's going on, either at the enterprise level or at a field level, for day-to-day operation. And in our next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about what does this mean from business model alignment perspective. This is our favorite Death Star diagram that really explains inner workings of Clayco and ties them into overall project delivery process. We think of every job as being not linear. So every job is an opportunity to start a new cycle with the same client or a similar client from a little bit higher ground. And any process that helps us basically accumulate, sort, disseminate, and analyze the knowledge that has been gathered on our project is the process that is welcome within Clayco. So basically what my team is doing, our team is aligning technology solutions that with a project delivery process and finding the optimal use of those technologies. And in the next slide, I really want to tell or share with the audience where is Clayco heading and why is Smartvid not as a product, but as a strategic initiative in terms of introducing new technology, very important. We firmly believe that differentiator for different companies that operate in AC space over the next 5 to 10 years, it's not going to be how many technical solutions we manage to acquire or how many licenses we can claim in terms of software or hardware that we have. But we think that key component to our success over the next 10 to 15 years is in our ability to connect these different points of data entry in a way that makes sense for our organization. So whether we are dabbling with augmented reality, digital job sites, project handover, reality capture, robotics, or artificial intelligence and machine learning, they all need to work in concert in order to improve our processes and provide us an insight in our operations that goes beyond guessing, meaning predictive analytics, in my view, or in the view of Clayco leadership, is something that will make a difference in the way we deliver projects tomorrow. And in the next slide, you'll see a couple of examples of Clayco dabbling with this technology. Right now, we are utilizing two different products that are harnessing the power of machine learning and artificial intelligence, or I really hate using those terms interchangeably because there's a fine distinction, but I don't think we have time in this webinar. And obviously, Josh is an expert, so I'm sure Josh can give you a breakdown of when to use artificial intelligence and when to use either computer vision and machine learning as a subset process and to describe what you do. But what really makes a difference to us is capability or being able to eliminate any risk of assumptions when it comes to executing jobs on time and being able to understand what's happening next in terms of activities and tasks. So from that perspective, combination of predictive analytics, computer vision, gathering data on the site, as well as filtering out a vast amount of data that is being presented to us, are key components of what we're trying to do when it comes to project controls. And in the next slide, as I mentioned early, Clayco is extremely proud of our safety record. We have an extraordinary team of safety engineers, safety managers that are making sure that everybody goes back home safe and sound at the end of the day. So in conjunction to internal policy and a safety culture, it just made sense to provide that additional layer, that additional tool like Smartvid that really plays into not really kind of remedying problems in the site immediately, but actually educating and onboarding and collaborating with everybody at the job site at the level that this insight into gathering information provides today. If you think that on average job site, throughout the duration of the job site, we roughly collect terabyte and a half of data, and multiply this over 50 jobs. I'm sure Josh has some ideas about gained efficiencies, but I can tell you how extremely instructional is to be able to log on your job, do the search for keywords, and being able to provide enough information to have a better safety meeting next time or next week when you have the crew starting a job or at the beginning of the day. So pre-task analysis, pre-task meetings are far more informed now by using this solution than ever before. And that kind of ties into what we believe, and I kind of outlined in the next slide, is our vision for future of construction. First of all, these are some slogans that can be applied to anything that we do in terms of technology, especially considering that, we are not a technology company, but technology is part of our DNA. So how do we move beyond restraints or drawbacks of existing state of technology in construction? And one of the things that we are looking in and fostering within the house is really to abandon shame and recognize that some industries are far ahead of us. So technology transfer and stealing from, quote unquote, stealing, and taking away from those that are capable of doing things better, like manufacturing industry, aerospace industry, is key to our trajectory when it comes to deeper technology integration in what Clayco is doing. And products like either Smartvid IO or Reconstruct or anything else that comes from Autodesk that offers a level of integration and really an unprecedented data conduit is something that we believe will be creating a foundation for our success over next decade or two to come. So with having said this, I think, Josh, it's your turn to take over, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, I think stealing is an interesting term. I think in business school, there's this whole concept of benchmarking and emulating, not stealing. So I guess it all depends on how you say it.
Yeah, I was just a little more blunt.
All right. So as we move into this next piece, we're going to talk about the Clayco and Smartvid IO partnership and show some data from the projects. So, Tomislav, we started working together back on a lab project pilot in Q3 of 2017.
Pretty much,
right? Yeah.
It's 2017, and it was a no-brainer when we saw the data pouring in, and obviously we approached this relationship very cautiously. There are always claims in the industry about capable solutions, but our level of cautiousness was almost equal to parenting. We understood that Vinny is a toddler, and working with you and a team and being able to see Vinny grow is what really created this kind of sense of comfort and sense of commitment on our end that this is the way to go. This is the way where we decided at the beginning of this year to kind of take a deep dive and sign an enterprise agreement with Smartvid and basically bring all of our projects into this huge data pool and also enable access to all of our subcontractors or basically unlimited access to team members to feed information into Smartvid IO. And right now, we are actively monitoring 10, I don't want to call them pilot projects. I think these are benchmark projects where data is being analyzed on a weekly basis and shared with our executive teams in order to understand how can we be better on the next project.
That's great. Yeah, what we can do is now talk through exactly what you guys are monitoring for and show some of the early results here. So what Tomislav and the team are doing is, as he just said so well, is they're bringing in data from BIM 360, from actually our own mobile app, as well as from site cameras, OxBlue site cameras, doing our Vinny-based analytics and then generating statistics off of it across projects. So it's allowing them to gather data across projects, detect a bunch of different safety hazards and risk factors, and then drive a whole bunch of new visibility, which can then translate into better, more proactive safety culture, improved overall incident rates. So let's get into some of the specifics. So what we're doing here is we're actually pulling photos from BIM 360, OxBlue, and the mobile app, as I said. The photos are being analyzed in near real time by Vinny, the AI engine. And then what we're looking for is a whole bunch of different risk factors. And Tomislav, to your point about Vinny being a toddler, we agree. Vinny's still growing up, but we have new releases coming out every couple of weeks or so. And we're always looking to improve what Vinny can see, the accuracy, and then also the additional things that Vinny is able to see. I think
many parents would be happy seeing their toddlers learning so fast.
Yeah. It's like any parent, it's a lot of effort, but definitely worth it. So we've grown Vinny from core categories around personal protective equipment like high vis, vests, hard hats, gloves, safety glasses, into other categories like housekeeping, ladders, scaffolding, and others, as we're continuing to grow out the engine. And those are things that, just like you can see in the example on the right, what Vinny is looking for is looking through existing photos, your existing site photos, and identifying those indicators of risk, like this worker missing gloves here on the right. So let's get into some of the specifics of the data that has been gathered and analyzed that Tomislav mentioned. So interestingly, this is where the numbers really start adding up. If we look just across 3 projects, so this is 3 selected projects, there were 65,000 images that were analyzed. In the 65,000 images, there were 23,000 people found. And then if you look at how many people were found and you make it a percentage for how many people were found, how many were missing one item of PPE, gloves or glasses or hard hats, the percentage compliance can be calculated. So that's what this 96% number is. It's actually the percentage of folks found that might have been missing one or another item of PPE. And then you actually get a raw number there too. It's about 1,600 specific non-compliances.
And Josh, I think it's really important to mention that I think it's really good to learn by kind of reaching back in your muscle memory. So Smartvid IO doesn't have to work only with new projects. We can feed the data from all jobs up to the time when we started to take digital photos and really understand how our safety record has progressed over years. Mm-hmm. So that in itself is a very valuable approach that doesn't require necessarily manpower to do it, but it requires kind of introspection and being able to correlate safety effort with the data that has been collected over past 15 years, for example.
Yeah, that's a really great point. A really important one too, Tomislav, because it's something that we do with companies as they're getting to know our product. We do a program called a safety risk assessment, where we'll work with you to connect up anywhere from 3 to 5 projects. And to your point, they are oftentimes their old jobs, because at this point, a lot of companies have projects that have completed and are in BIM 360. So you can use those to help baseline your company and see where you are one project to another, because it's so easy to set up. And another really important point that you made, Tomislav, is you don't have to bother the field teams. You don't have to get in the way of any ongoing projects that are in flight, either for the old jobs or actually even for the new ones, because you can just set up the integration and it will work in the background. So let's get into some of the data here. Now it's anonymized a bit, but at least the project types are in here. We have a sports arena, a student dorm, a lab building. the first set of data that you get when you're doing think of it as the initial analysis, or as I called it, a safety risk assessment. You basically get a quick view of, hey, are we taking enough photos? So there was one statistic in the prior slide. Clayco is taking around 700 photos a month on average per project, which is a great number. It's a healthy number. You should be taking, we see as a best practice, getting coverage, getting photos of the job. It's useful not just for safety, but also for quality and for being able to have good visual documentation later on as an insurance policy against claims. So this is the first chart. Hey, are we taking enough pictures? You need to know that across your jobs. If you have a huge job that you can't find any photos for, that's an indicator that there is some risk there you need to manage. Another way to look at this is, where do the photos come from? So if you look at the photos that came from the three projects that we're showcasing here, about 10,500 came from BIM 360, about 14,000 from OxBlue, and then close to 17,000 from our own mobile app. And if you're using our own mobile app, you can not only take advantage of Vinny's image recognition, you can also add your voice to any photo or video. And then we can analyze that as well, and then create a huge amount of time savings in organizing all your photos and videos.
And Josh, I think it's also important to mention on this slide, even though these photos are coming from 3 different data sources, if you are looking at ability of Forge platform to deliver an industry solution, I think it's also important to mention that some of the photos and some of the drivers, or one of the drivers of our deploying Smartvid, was our use of unmanned aerial vehicles or drones as an avenue to automatically gather data from very specific locations. And anybody that knows how drones operate can attest that one flight can gather up to 1,000 images. If this was to be analyzed by a human, we would have to probably hire 2 people just to analyze photos on day-to-day basis. With Smartvid, the paradigm completely shifts.
Yeah, we did some back-of-the-envelope calculations together that if you think of a person taking 30 seconds to analyze each picture, back on this prior slide, to do this initial analysis of 65,000 images and generate these statistics, if you say 30 seconds an image, it winds up being almost 2 months worth of person time doing eye-bleeding work, full-time, dedicated, which it's impossible. You can't actually do it, which is part of the excitement of this technology, is that you can have an analytics engine that's always on, always looking and generating statistics like these. So this is the PPE compliance, which is then broken down by those same projects. You have your sports arena, the housing, and the lab. And you can now look at it by category. So here's your hard hat compliance. So how many in the sports arena project, for example, there's 90% compliance with hard hat PPE, under 90%, but just barely for high vis, and then glove compliance, 72%. Glove compliance, some companies have 100% glove compliance policies, others don't. So you can effectively turn this on and off as you need it. But what's been interesting is that the level of compliance for some firms is actually much higher than they think. And so when they're looking at policies around driving 100% glove compliance, for example, when they're looking at data coming from our system, they say, well, we're actually really close. So it would help us to have a policy around it. And we're so close anyway, let's do it. So this Tomislav, to you, this has allowed you to look at things by region, right? And start thinking about what are the different, the specifics that make one job different than another.
And again, looking at previous projects allows you to kind of, introduce elements of predictive analytics. And then when you're planning the next job in a specific region where, it's a combination of job type, subcontractor capability, as well as, specifics of that particular job, you can start really planning your safety procedures, your safety staffing, pre-task planning based on this data. And to me, that's extremely valuable.
That's great. And just to remind everybody, this data is built on top of the 65,000 photos that were analyzed. So that's where all the statistics come from. But behind every number is a photo. So behind every one of those observations is an actual photo. And this is just one example, no gloves, and what the observations were by month for a specific project. Each one of these numbers actually ties into a photo like this, where you can see an example of someone not wearing gloves or whatever the specific observation is. Now, again, some of these might be issues, others might not be, but it gives you an overall feel for what in this case, the PPE posture of the job is, which, as a reminder to everybody, is really just the beginning. So PPE is just one category. We're also looking at other risk factors like workers at height on things like ladders and scaffolding, housekeeping issues, which are very highly correlated with both quality and safety risks. So it's not just PPE, but that's the PPE area has been one where there's been a ton of analysis and interest from customers. So what did we learn? What were the results? Well, there are 4 areas here from our work together with Clayco that led us to building this enterprise relationship. So the first was that there was 60% time savings on capturing and organizing progress photos. And this is from both the automated categorization using image, but also voice. Another one, there was improved job site safety by being able to, for each project, benchmark on some of those factors as we just showed, and improve communication around where each job was at the executive level, and then across the projects themselves. Ease of use, there was minimal training required, and then this is one point that gets lost, but it's super critical. You don't have to change your field processes to start taking advantage of the artificial intelligence. You just need to connect up your BIM 360 and we'll start doing the analysis for you. And then Tomislav, as I invite you to give your comments here, the last area was other uses. As Vinny is growing, there were other uses like data management, as you've already mentioned a couple times.
Correct. And it's like any other tool. People are creative. You give them a tool to start thinking how to maximize its capability or capitalize on its capability. So we actually started to look into using this for, all the aspects of data management, whether it's marketing, whether it's preparing proposals, whether it's looking for other elements of the image that might prove to be valuable in our task planning process. I think we're just scratching the surface, to be honest. I can see the platform growing to the point where some things are being fairly automated when the level of certainty reaches a level that is acceptable to organization using the process. Our hope is that within next 6 months to a year, we will see the level of integration that goes beyond just image analysis and transfers into really field management. And I think that day is closer than we anticipate.
Yeah, the horizon is getting closer for some of the additional uses of the data. You mentioned this a few times, Tomislav, this concept of predicting. And that's one of the presentations that happened at Future Tech a few weeks ago in San Francisco, is the use of Smartvid IO data to do what is shown visually on the left here. It's think of it as a risk meter that starts looking at what the system is observing in terms of things like missing PPE, as well as other factors like the weather, what the project size is, the project duration and phase, and using all that data with a different kind of artificial intelligence, more predictive artificial intelligence, to actually predict what could happen. In other words, an incident warning system that says, hey, you Project X, you have a higher risk of an accident next week than Project Y. And the reasons are all of these different trends that we're seeing, and over time, by analyzing, in this case, decades of data, we were able to train an engine that can predict high-risk types of projects. It's kind of similar to if you go into a national park and they say risk of forest fire is high or medium or low. By analyzing years and years of data, including using Vinny to do some visual analysis of how workers are in terms of PPE compliance, we found that we could actually predict accidents. And if you can reduce the number of predicted accidents by just, if you could actually avoid just 25% of the accidents we're predicting across 50 projects, it results in anywhere from 40 to 100 avoided incidents a year. Which, if you think about that in terms of both the human side as well as the insurance cost side, it winds up being really, really powerful. So with that, I'm going to, first off, thank you, Tomislav, for being such a great customer to work with, both a visionary, but someone who's very blunt and practical. You know, I think it's really important to be both so that we can deliver and definitely no fun. I'm going to invite Josh Cheney on to see if there are questions from the audience, and then we'll end with how you could start analyzing your BIM 360 data today in less than 90 seconds. Josh, over to you.
All right, fantastic. Mr. Cantor and Tomislav, thank you guys very much. It is just incredible and powerful to see how easily people can consume information from BIM 360, make it available in Smartvid, and then Tomislav, great to hear how you guys are applying it. A couple questions rolled in while Josh and Tomislav are presenting. The first one is, how do you set up an integration between BIM 360 and Smartvid? I know you covered it, Josh, but it'd be great if you could just give us kind of the Cliff Notes version again.
Yeah, it's really easy. You just set up a trial within Smartvid.io. You log into your account, you create a project, and then there's a tab called Integrations. You click on that tab, you click on BIM 360, and then you log in right there using your BIM 360 credentials and click Go, and you're done. And the photos and the data will start flowing. So it's as easy as creating a project and logging into BIM 360. And then the next one you do, it actually remembers your login credentials on that browser. And so all you have to do is add a project, click the integration button, click connect, and you're done.
That's awesome. All right, next question is, do you benchmark data so that customers can compare performance?
Yeah, that's a great question. So benchmarking is an area of a lot of interest to customers. I'm going to give a short answer here, and then I'm very interested in Tomislav's perspectives too. So I just went back to PPE compliance chart. This is really a benchmarking chart. So it's projects compared to each other over time. Some of the safety managers and executives we work with are using this to drive a positive safety culture. In other words, compete on compliance as opposed to using the system to be like an auditor. The goal here is not to catch people doing things wrong, but to actually reward everybody for doing stuff right. So now, yeah, go ahead.
No, absolutely agree with you. And one thing is, I think it's fair to say, system is a system. So the Smartvid does what Smartvid's supposed to do, but there's still a second level of data validation. Once when this data is being aggregated, so that's, instead of looking through 5,000 photos, now you're looking down to 50. In those 50, you can recognize those that are valid issues, like, obviously somebody not wearing gloves while pouring concrete, or somebody not wearing gloves because somebody took a photo in a office meeting. So there's still a common sense that needs to be applied to this, but again, the purpose of the system is to filter down information to the level where it really matters, and it's absolutely manageable.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to think about then benchmarking this chart here, instead of 3 projects for a company, it might be 50 as you're looking across different projects. And then to answer the question directly, yes, the data can then be used completely anonymized though. We're working on how you compare to other peers, other folks that are like you, companies like you. Today we do it by just sharing the results with you, again, anonymized, but we're working to also build that into the product.
And Josh, maybe it's really worth mentioning, I think you mentioned this at the beginning as well. This is not only used for eliminating or monitoring non-compliance. This technology is extremely productive when it comes to progress tracking and ability to recognize which elements of a building are at certain progress or a certain level of progress. So you can actually start utilizing similar technology for better adjusting your look-ahead schedule, getting better reports. So, I mean, again, we are just scratching the surface. Safety is an obvious choice because it's relatively manageable in terms of its scope, but the potential is far-reaching.
Great.
All right. So the next question, I'm sure a lot of people are interested in this one. So are there insurance benefits to using Smartvid?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. So we've started collaborating with the insurance broker Aon, and actually they just completed a technology profile on us. So and they're actively working with us to encourage use of the software. So folks who are listening in or who hear this later, our Aon customers, reach out to your Aon broker. Or reach out to us, and we'd love to talk to you about how you could get benefits for using our software. Ultimately, what we're seeing is that there's a huge alignment between what we're doing and the broker and insurance carrier world out there. So there's a lot of ways that this can help you. Not just reduce your incident rate, but then reduce all the insurance related costs that go along with it. But very tactically, if folks are Aon customers or thinking about Aon, let us know or talk to your broker. We'd love to work with you.
All right. More of a product specific question here. So how do you name pictures, videos, and arrange them in smartvid.io?
Yeah, so what we do is if they're coming in through an integration, like from BIM 360 Field, we maintain the naming conventions that you may have had in those other systems. And then we tag the photos. So we don't rely on file names. We actually rely on what we call, and it's not a concept we invented, obviously, but we call them tags and smart tags. Smart tags are ones that we apply from Vinny. So what that lets you do is it lets you then slice and dice your photos and videos any way you want. You're not stuck with folders anymore. Think of it as finally moving beyond folders to be able to search and find and then organize and share all that content. So just to give you an example, some tags for photos coming over from BIM 360 Field, the tags will include any of the locations that were associated with the photo from BIM 360 Field. It will include the kind of issue or observation that was made in BIM 360 Field. We also capture all of the description information from any observation and associate that with the photo. And all of that is searchable, and all of that can be used for analysis. Then the last level of tagging is the smart tagging, which is how Vinny works. Vinny looks at the pictures and listens to the video and applies tags that you are interested in. So if you're interested in PPE, Vinny will be looking for PPE violations. If you're interested in locations, Vinny will be listening for locations and apply those. So at the end of the day, it's all tags, it's all searchable, it's all shareable. Some of it comes from other systems, some of it comes from Vinny, and then some of it can come from you. You can add any tags you want.
Got it. Okay, next question is, what kind of training models are you using to get the information into Smartvid? Not 100% sure on what they mean by training models, but perhaps it's some version of your algorithms, Josh.
Yeah. So the concept of training in the world of machine learning, which is, as Tomislav alluded to before, it's the subset of artificial intelligence that we work in. The concept of training is really important. So what you do is, just like Vinny, as we've talked about, is a toddler and is learning, you have to teach Vinny. So the way we teach Vinny is by training Vinny. The way you train Vinny is by feeding Vinny examples, or showing Vinny. I guess you don't want to break the analogy and say feeding, because it's, he's not actually eating the data, but you get showing Vinny examples and teaching Vinny from those examples. So this is where there's a really nice positive loop. Think of it as a positive feedback loop, where as we work with Clayco and customers, there's more data that's coming in, more data that's analyzed, and more data that then is where Vinny is missing things, or is right or is wrong, can then be used to further train Vinny. And all of those you can think of are tags, like I just mentioned, that are then used to help train Vinny's algorithms, Vinny's intelligence, so to speak, to be smarter about these different categories. So to give an example, we're working on, for example, right now we're training Vinny how to spot standing water. So standing water is a common issue you want to be keeping an eye on. And so across the millions and millions of images that we have in the system, we're able to find and then extract and use all those standing water examples to train.
Okay, cool. The next question, we'll get to a couple more of these, and then unfortunately we'll have to cut things off here. But let's see. Can the same analytics be applied to existing conditions or code alerts in a BIM model or interior space?
Yeah,
great question. So, Tomislav, do you want to take a crack at that first and jump in?
I'll tackle it briefly. It's a known fact that there are several educational institutions, particularly Georgia Tech, that has been working on recognizing patterns in floor plans, and you could definitely push this, I believe, and Josh, I'll kind of put it on your plate, but I think one can definitely push a floor plan or a model analysis as part of the machine learning process in order to identify potential risk areas on a plan and obviously apply appropriate safety measures. To my point from before, we are just scratching the surface, and I think the systems that we'll see developing on the market in next few years will definitely address some of these issues.
Yeah, I would agree with Tomislav. Specifically though, in terms of what Smartvid.io does right now, we're not consuming BIM and then doing any kind of checking on BIM. We're consuming photos and videos and analyzing what's in that native content today. I think there's all kinds of things that could happen going forward, as Tomislav is saying.
Got it. All right, cool. We'll make this the last question here, and then we'll wrap things up. So can the benchmark data or visual indicators be exported to a BI dashboard or browser widget, or just in the mobile app?
Yeah, so we're working on that. If you're coming to Autodesk University, you can keep your eyes open potentially. That's all the hints I'll give. But yeah, the widgets and the data that we create are designed so that they should be able to eventually be embeddable in other systems. You can today get the data out. So we let you both print reports as well as export the data so that you can do whatever you want with it. It's not stuck in our system.
All right, fantastic. Well, Josh and Tomislav, really appreciate you guys carving out some time this morning to further educate us on Smartvid and then real world application and usage. Really want to thank everyone for joining us on the call today in the series of webinars. The next one that we have coming down the pipe is Hollow Builder. They're a 3D 360-degree capture solution, so you could probably push that information into Smartvid. That webinar will be taking place July 24th. So be on the lookout to register for that webinar. Again, Josh and Tomislav, really want to thank you guys. Great having customers and integration partners present with us. And we look forward to seeing you guys at AU.
Sounds great. Our pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.